Hello, beautiful people. Sarah here again with another episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the comments, for the encouragement, and thank you for being an awesome family. I'm always looking forward to coming back and sharing what I've learned so that we can grow together on this journey. Today I bring you a topic on some of the regrets and some of the things I wish I knew before starting goat farming. And these are going to range from practical to just normal day-to-day procedures in goat farming. But I just wish I knew these things before, because I've made so many mistakes that have cost me both money and animals. And I'm looking forward to sharing these mistakes with you so that you don't make the same mistakes as I made. That's why we come out and share this information, so that we can learn from each other, where what I've gone through, you don't have to go through. And I think that's the beauty of social media now, that if you look for information, you're going to find information, and you're going to jump through certain loopholes and avoid certain mistakes that others have made. There's so many generous people out there with information that are sharing their experiences. So let us continue being in the habit of yearning and looking for this information. One of the mistakes I made in the beginning was not treating my goat farm as a business. You guys, I started with a big dream. But when it came to practicability, I got so overtaken by the beauty of these goats, and I started looking at it as a petting zoo instead of focusing and staying on purpose and knowing that, you know what, this is a business. I've shared in one of my videos that when I first started, when we first started, of course I started with 100 goats, and then I added another 100. But like the first 100, when they were giving birth, would name all the kids. And then I got attached to these kids. When time came for selling, I didn't want to sell because I knew these goats by name. It was so crazy. So basically, I was treating it as a petting zoo instead of a business. And that means it cost me in terms of sales. You turn down a client, and then you're ruining your image as a farmer. So treat goat farming as a business, a serious business. Don't look at it as a hobby or as a petting zoo, because it can really be lucrative and it can make you a lot of money. Let's break down some of the things you need to do in order for you to be professional in this business. One, you need systems, you need records, you need planning, and you need consistency. Consistency is very important, because once you lose it, you get off track. And what are some of the breakdowns of the things that we need to focus on? One, you need a budget when you're starting your farm. I had a budget, but I didn't stick to it. So I ended up buying more land. I feel like I should have bought lesser land in the beginning and bought more goats than I did. I ended up buying more land, so it took up most of my money. And then when it came to stocking and doing other infrastructure development, I was struggling a little bit. So because I'd identified a piece of land where there was potential to grow, I should have maybe started with 35 acres. And then that would have left me with enough money, with a lot more money to do the water system, to do the infrastructure for the workers, to do the structures for the goats. But I didn't do that. So that's a mistake I made. So when you're setting up your farm, make sure that you're budgeting, you're sitting down and actually crunching numbers and balancing which proportion of amount of money you need to have to which area of the budget, so that you can easily plan your setup. Then feed plan. I didn't have an actual feed plan. For me, I set up my farm and I was going to just let my animals go and graze. But that is only viable if you have huge chunks of land, which I happen not to have. So it means that I should have planned my feeds. I encourage people to stock your feeds for at least 6 months before you bring the animals to the farm. So I wish I had known that before, but again, I've made my mistake and I've shared it so that you don't make the same mistake. Then vaccination. Some people really struggle with vaccination schedules and they don't vaccinate there. And I didn't make this mistake, fortunately, because I had hired a consultant that was experienced in this. So he was able to give us a particular vaccination schedule, a particular deworming schedule. But some farmers make this mistake. You open your farm and you don't even know what vaccines to give at what period of time. So we really need to avoid that. Feeding is 70% of your success in goat farming. Like I've said, make sure you have enough feeds that are going to last you at least 6 months before you stock your animals. For me, I started with just zero grazing, with free ranging, but with time I realized I had to do more of a semi-intensive, and then that's when I went into growing feeds, and I've now established a 15-acre piece that I've planted my feeds on. I'm making silage, I'm making hay, we are chopping and feeding chow. So make sure that you really have a good feeding plan, because like I've said, feeding is 70% of your success as a farmer. If you don't get it right, it's a big mistake and it's going to cost you heavily going forward. Breeding matters more than you think. A common mistake is thinking that end goat will make you money. No. We have to look at the different kind of breeds that we have and what purposes they serve. If you are looking to produce meat, then you have here in Uganda, to be specific, you have to look at certain breeds, specific breeds, the Boers from South Africa. If you cross them with our Mubende, those are going to give you a good consistency of meat and resistance. The Savannas are good, they are tough and they are heavy. And then, of course, our local breeds like the Mubende are very disease resistant. And mixing the right genetics determines your long-term profit. So let us learn and educate ourselves on these breeds to understand that, okay, for meat, I need this breed. And for proper and efficient growth, maybe I need to mix a Boer with a Mvende so that I have a mixture of the two, and that is going to help me. Another mistake we make is not understanding the effect and the different diseases that affect goats from the beginning. You have to educate yourself on these diseases. Some of the common killers in goats are pneumonia, worms, coccidiosis, and foot rot. When I first started the farm, I had done quite a bit of research, but I didn't have a full grasp of these diseases and how to handle them. I had trained my workers, but some of the things came to us by surprise. For instance, when our first production, we had the healthiest babies ever. Everyone envied them. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that when your goats are pregnant, maybe a month before they give birth, you need to vaccinate them against Clostridioides. So I didn't vaccinate against Clostridioides. And surprisingly, my consultant didn't tell me this. So it's a mistake that I ended up paying heavily for. We started producing, and then the kids were hit by Clostridioides. Within 1 week, we lost 59 kids. Guys, 59 kids in 1 week. Very, very healthy looking kids were lost in 1 week. 59 of them. And as a new farmer, I almost fainted. But if I'd continued doing my research, I think I overtrusted my consultant And so I didn't really follow up because I didn't understand that you need to vaccinate against Clostridiosis. You need to vaccinate the mothers against Clostridiosis so that the kids are born with this immunity to Clostridiosis. So it cost me 59 kids in a period of 1 week. By the time we got to understand what the problem was, we were already deep into it. So understand the different diseases, educate yourself about these diseases, know which disease, what causes it, and how to handle it. I've shared some of that information in previous videos, but there are also other farmers out there that share this information. Please research it. Housing matters more than looks. So I used to think that a beautiful house meant a modern farm. But what goats really need is a simple, dry, well-ventilated structure. I've showed you guys my structures. They are ground structures, very simple but practical. You have to have an exercising yard. You have to have a spraying pen within the same structure, and then you have to have the actual structure shelter where it's covered by iron sheets, so that when it's raining, your animals are able to go and take cover in that section. This helps prevent the diseases like pneumonia for them, because they are not getting rained on directly. We also need to understand that breeding is not just let them mate. That is a mistake most farmers make, and it costs you. You need to understand, to think through your breeding and know that breeding is not automatic. It's not just put in a male and abandon and boom, the kids are born. No, you need to pick a very good male. Study the characteristics of the male. Make sure that it's healthy. Make sure it's a percentage that is good enough. For instance, if you have goats that your does are like 75% percentage line and above, try to give them a pure male. That is going to give you better offsprings, and it's going to continue improving your genetics. So don't get your 75% female and serve it with a 75% male. Then you're not really improving your genetics along the way. And that is a mistake that most farmers make, because we are trying to cut costs. But invest well into your breeding stock, especially the males. Females, you can start with lower percentages, but make sure that at least you have, if you want to do goat farming at a commercial and scalable level, you need to have pure males in your stock to do the breeding for you. So another mistake that farmers make in the beginning, and one that I wish every farmer knows, is not being very specific on your labor. Selecting the perfect workers, giving them the perfect training, and encouraging them to have your vision, to carry your vision. Because if your team is not carrying your vision, it hinders your growth and your scalability. So you have to make sure that in everything that you're doing in the beginning, as you're setting up your farm, you're sharing your vision with your team, so that you're on the same page and you're running after the same goal. Otherwise, you're going to be 10 miles ahead and they're still 1 mile behind you. So make sure that you communicate your goal, your vision, your mission, and your ultimate end, so that you're all working towards the same end for your goats. There are certain things you need to track, and some of these are like spending when you're starting your farm. A lot of times we are consumed in the idea of starting, and then we lose track of how much we are spending and what we are spending on. So try to really be focused and narrowed down on your spending. Do a budget. I've talked about budgeting so many times, but it's so important that I have to keep repeating it. So let's really work on planning well and thinking through our starting process. Other than that, goats are really profitable. If you you do your research in the beginning. You avoid mistakes that others have made. Do your look around, follow farmers, visit farms, practically visit farms to ensure that you're learning practically from other farmers that are doing it well. These are so many of the mistakes that I made and others have made, and I thought sharing them might help you as an aspirant farmer to avoid them, so that when you start your farm, you're starting on a good scale, and you're able to be profitable, to avoid mortalities, to avoid loss in poor planning and poor budgeting, and a lot of other mistakes that so many people make when starting goat farming. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comment section. We shall come back to them and respond to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let's keep growing. Let's keep working together. Let's keep researching and just sinking ourselves into knowledge so that we can improve the goat farming venture in this country. All the best.